Hi everybody, my name is Dallas Hardcastle. I'm the founder of Integrate Training Technologies. Standing to the right of me is Mr. Greg Hartley. I initially reached out to him because in my company for the past several years, what we have done is we've been working towards really being able to teach at a high level what this rapport mastery means and how to really be able to connect with people and how to really be able to read people on deeper levels. And over the years, I began getting myself more and more familiar with some of Greg's writings, some of the appearances that I've seen him on for CNN and Montel Williams and various other news programs. So I reached out to Greg actually on several of occasions, and finally when I was able to actually get in touch with him, I said, Greg, what are some of the key things that really make us different, that make us think different, act different, and why can you talk about these so well?
You know, Dallas, that's an interesting thing because I spent 30 years, the past 30 years, I joined the Army at 18 and I'm now in my late 40s. I spent the past 30 years learning about people and why people do the things they do. More importantly, not just why they do it, but how you can help them make the decision to do the right thing. Also, how you can empower yourself to make the right decisions. People are pretty simple. We have some basic drives. We know all of those from our basic high school psychology classes, but we take it a bit farther in the business of intelligence in that I want to motivate a guy to do something he might not necessarily want to do, like give me information. Along the way, I need to understand why his brain does the things that his brain does, how his interaction with other people impacts the way his brain works, why he might do something stupid even though he's the brightest guy on the planet, why he might feel less than powerful standing in the presence of someone who is less powerful than he is. So all of those tricks and traps and things that are caught up in our brains that we have no control over, I learned along the way how to take control of those things, to interrogate prisoners that were much higher ranking than I was, much more fierce than I was, to be able to take myself to a place that allowed me to talk to those people. All of my students had to learn the same thing. These are really easy skills to master. It just takes someone teaching you how.
We find people that seem to kind of have what we will hear, people say it over and over again, they have this it. They have that it factor. They seem to have all the sales education. They seem to have the business knowledge. They have schooling and a lot of times 10 or 20 years of experience.
Sure.
But there are other people that still seem to be just finishing better than they do. They seem to be the ones that are winning business, selling ideas.
You know, it's interesting, Dallas. To me, people will say, this person has charisma, they have it. Well, charisma is a formula. There's something you can quickly seize on. There are 5 steps to having charisma. Regardless of where your charisma level is today, I don't care if you're Barack Obama today. If you take these 5 steps, your charisma will explode. It will grow. It's simple. First thing you have to do is to show value. And by that I mean show why you're different, why you add value to a person's life, why they want to know you. It might mean that you have horns and no one else has horns, right? I mean, not necessarily the thing I would want, but something that causes people to want to talk to you. Then you have to be intelligent enough to recognize that person wants to talk to you. When you recognize that, you need to grant them an audience. I don't mean simply, hi, how are you? You literally grant them an audience. And I'll teach you some body language to help do that. Make them feel like you are worthy of the time. You've shown your value and now you're letting them come up to you and talk to you. Not Queen of England, but you're allowing them audience. After they give you that audience, then you need to bond with them in some way. What you're going to have to do is get to the point that they understand that you add value, but that you have something in common with them. It might mean nothing more than I'm old and my back hurts. Whatever it is, you get to common ground. And then finally, and this is the most important step of the entire thing, allow that person to tell you something about them. It's the reason Bill Clinton and people like Bill Clinton always are remembered is because they don't leave by saying, I'm Bill Clinton and I'm great. They leave by saying, Dallas, what's great about you? And you tell them and they say, wow, Dallas, great to meet you. I would never have known that. And they walk away and you feel like, wow, that's powerful. It's a formula and it's simple. And when I teach interrogators have to not only be able to go in and collect the information, they also have to be able to report it out and even to be able to stand in front of anyone, if the president of the country happens to be in the room, to answer a question. So all of that process you're talking about is the key part. It's not just the getting the information. Once the guy starts puking information, it's easy. That's the easy part. It's the getting him ready to puke, right? You got to work your way through that, and there's a process to everything we do. So we look at then, how do I build rapport? Much like what you do in sales. How do I connect to this person? Then how do I motivate the person based on a specific psychological framework for that person? More importantly, I'm part of the dance. How does my psychology play into his psychology, and how are our 2 Maslow's hierarchies of needs tangled? Let's look for what's normal for the person. Let's look for deviation to indicate he's either open or closed. That's a good way to start, but let me show you some tools to change whether he's open or closed. Let me show you some voodoo, as my coworkers called it in the intelligence business, to get the person to feel like you're their friend, not just on a superficial level, but like your success is their success, to bond to them in a way that no salesperson that you've met understands, because these are intelligence tools. These are about going in and getting information and reporting that information out in instant time. You need to get information about actionable intelligence, about rescue information that the person really doesn't want to give up, and that they're not going to leave the room feeling good or bad about it. They're going to leave feeling neutral about it. That's exactly what you're trying to get. Go rapport. Every time you touch the person, they feel better about it, not worse. The things I learned to do in interrogation, the things I learned to do in elicitation, getting information from people, were simple. Once you understand the basics of this formula, there are only 5 real parts of body language you have to master. They're simple. You know them. I'll simply put words to things you already know. And once you get that, it becomes simply an experiment of paying attention to people around you. The first of those is a gesture. We all understand it. Universal in our culture, it's something like a thumbs up or an okay symbol, something like a come to me. Those things are not universal outside of a culture because gestures have to be tailored to meet the group. Any gesture is universally understood by the people you're communicating with. So while this works in the United States, not so good outside the United States. Then the next one is a barrier. When I feel uncomfortable and I cross my arms, your high school psychology teacher taught you that meant I was closing you out. It simply means I need more space. It doesn't really mean that I need to be away from you. It might simply mean I need time to think. I have to learn to read the person and see if that's normal or if it's abnormal. I once knew a guy who stood like this all the time, and I asked him, was he uncomfortable, and he dropped his arms. He could scratch his kneecaps. He said, no, I look kind of goofy standing around with my arms down low, so simply meant nothing for him, but it's a barrier. He was giving me a little space. The other one's an adapter. If you look at a person playing with their nails, a woman twirling her hair, a man picking up his tie and playing with it, good indicators that they are trying to take control of their environment. They're feeling a little stress. What we do is by normalizing through playing with our tie, through playing with our fingers, we take more control of our environment. It makes us feel very comfortable and very relaxed. In fact, batters standing in the box, rubbing their thighs, are simply releasing hormones, not wiping sweat off their palms. If you think for just a moment, they're wearing gloves and pine tar. So not possible they're wiping sweat off their palms. Then you get to illustrators, what I'm doing right now with my hands. My brain is punctuating what I think. Yours is too when you're talking. If you don't believe that, put on your Bluetooth headset, walk around the room talking to people, and watch your hands gesturing wildly even though you're the only person in the room. And then last is regulators. A regulator is how I control conversation. It might be this, it might be this, hurry up, speed up, speak, enough, go forward. All of those have to be understood by the person and have to not be a gesture that means something in the culture. So some parts of the world doing that is a bad idea. In the United States, not such a big deal. But once you learn those 5 pieces of body language, you're set. Now you can build on that and you can go to the next step.